Hello there, welcome. For those of you who don't yet know me, my name is Yenran. I took my A-level exams in the summer of 2023 and I achieved 5 A stars in maths, further maths, physics, computer science, and I did an EPQ on prime conjectures. I'm also currently holding an unconditional offer to study physical and natural sciences at the University of Cambridge this October, so if you're looking for a real guide on how to succeed at sixth form, you've definitely come to the right place. Quick disclaimer as per usual, all of the advice in this video is based solely off my own experiences. I always say I am not a teacher or a neuroscientist or a member of an exam board or admissions team. I also took all STEM subjects, so there might be a little bit of bias there, but please forgive me. Other than that, let's get into it. My definition of succeeding at sixth form means you need to focus on two things. Firstly, doing your best academically at the present moment, and secondly, getting yourself to where you want to be post-18. Realistically, the point of GCSEs is to get you to year 12, and now the point of sixth form is to get yourself to where you want to be post-18. You should be thinking of it as a stepping stone. If you haven't yet started your sixth form journey, here is a timeline of what you can expect. You'll start in September or so, and you will do 1 year of AS level content. There likely won't be much pressure on you until your final term, where you will sit a set of exams, whether that be your actual AS levels or a set of mocks. Before you go away for that summer, you'll be set a list of tasks, like looking at your post-18 options, working on any coursework, working on your personal statement, blah blah. If you are considering university, this is your opportunity to go and look at university open days. You'll come back in September for year 2, and throughout your second year, I would imagine you'll have 2 sets of mocks, your first set in December and your second set in March. University-wise, if you apply for early deadline, which is any applications to Oxford or Cambridge, or applications anywhere for medicine, veterinary medicine, or dentistry, your deadline for the UCAS application will be in October. If you're applying for anything else, your application will be in January. It's important to note that apprenticeships, traineeships, and of course jobs don't follow the UCAS deadline cycle, and so you need to be looking for these opportunities all throughout year 13. Also note that you won't just submit a CV and be done with it. You'll need to go through rounds of interviewing and testing, and so you should allow for upwards of 6 months for this whole application process to happen. Your final A-level exams will be in April-May time, and then of course you will get your results in August. We're going to walk together through that timeline, and I'm going to give you my advice on how I think you can achieve your best at every stop on the way. Most places will encourage you to start with 4 A-levels and then drop down to 3. Universities create their offers based off 3 A-level grades, so the moment you feel yourself start to slip, I would just drop the 4th. I've never heard anyone drop their 4th A-level and then turn around and go, oh, I wish I was still taking 4. Degree apprenticeships typically require 2 A-level grades, and the entrance requirements for a job obviously depend on company and position. So there is no real reason for you to take 4 A-levels unless you either want the intellectual challenge or you want a bit of security in your final exam knowing that you can mess up on a subject. Choice-wise, unless you know exactly what you want to do post-18, I would just pick the subjects that you want to do regardless of how well you think they're going to fit. If you take a look at the courses that you might want to study, you'll probably find that the subject choice is much more lenient than you might expect. For example, if you want to study law at the University of Cambridge, which is ranked the best place by the Complete University Guide 2025, you need A-star AA in anything. There are no subject requirements. There are of course some exceptions. Medicine is the archetypal tough course, and so most places are pretty firm about maths, biochem, but if you're looking at a course that you might want to do and it requires an A-level that you really don't want to do, chances are that the course isn't for you anyway. The only other thing is that if you're unsure, go for a general one. You're going to leave much more options open by picking maths A-level over stats or geography over geology. You've probably heard that the stat from GCSE to A-level is a big one, and that definitely is true to an extent, but I think in general people make it out to be a much bigger deal than it actually is. What I think makes it harder is that there is a much bigger focus on your independence. If you're someone who at GCSE managed just fine in doing the bare minimum in what the teachers set for you, you may find it hard to adjust to taking initiative in your study now. When you're in class, they may ask you to do a bit of further reading or self-study some chapters, just because they have to cover a lot more content in a shorter amount of time. This big step will get less daunting the faster that you recognise that this time round a lot of the responsibility is on you. It's up to you to be honest and reflective about whether you're working hard enough and whether you're struggling. But also, even though you're meant to be being more independent, there are also teachers at your sixth form who are there to help you, and so if you feel like you need more guidance on how much you should be working or what you should be working on, definitely reach out to them sooner rather than later. Don't forget also that everything will get easier. A-level exams are meant to be taken at the end of year 13, and so if you're at the end of year 11 now looking at the content, of course it's going to be hard because your exams are in 2 years and your brain has a really long way to develop yet. The only thing you can do when you're finding it hard is to just stay consistent with it. On that note, if you're in the summer between year 11 and year 12 and you're watching this, I think it will come as no surprise that I'm going to tell you that you need to do a little bit of studying. I often say that the thing that I think A-level students miss when they sit their exams is the understanding. And if you're going into learning A-level content without that baseline GCSE understanding, there is no way you're going to be able to progress, let alone to top grade bands. Here is the perfect opportunity for you to work on that independence skill. You may feel like you remember a lot of the GCSE content, you worked hard throughout year 11, you committed a lot of it to your long-term memory, you may have crammed last minute and forgotten everything. That doesn't matter now. What matters is that when you start year 12, you are as confident in your GCSE content as you were when you sat your exams. Definitely the most important thing is taking a break over the summer, but if you can, put aside an hour or two, look over your GCSE notes, have a go at a couple of past papers, maybe even watch some YouTube videos on your upcoming A-level subjects. That is going to be a really good investment of your time to make sure that you start year 12 off strong. All throughout my childhood, I knew I wanted to go to Oxbridge, and like many others, I was told that I had to do various extracurriculars, and so I learned instruments, I did competitive sports, I did volunteering, I tried to learn a second language. I applied to university twice, and I can tell you, this is not America, they do not care. Through UCAS cycles 23 and 24, I applied to Bath, Birmingham, Bristol, Durham, Exeter, and Warwick, and I received all of those offers in less than 2 weeks after my submission. I think I received my offer from Warwick less than a day after I submitted the first time round, so I'm pretty confident in saying that I don't think most of them read my personal statement. I know friends of mine applied to places like Edinburgh, where they release their offers quite late, which could be an indication that they do take the time to read through those kind of things, and I do know for sure that Cambridge, Oxford, and Birmingham did definitely read my personal statement. However, the message here is that throughout sixth form, the best thing that you can do in terms of opening up options post-18 is step 1, do your best academically. When the time rolls around and your teachers start to talk about your personal statement or your CV and they're pushing for you to put some extracurriculars on there, please do not panic. Obviously, if you already play an instrument or you already do a sport or anything like that, great, smack that on there. If not, there are 2 things that I would definitely start doing. The first thing is that you need to be doing wider reading in all of your subjects. Firstly, this is going to help you with your actual exams, but secondly, your personal statement will have a large academic focus, and by choosing books that are related to what you want to study, you are guaranteeing yourself that you have an extracurricular to write about that has direct relevance to what you're wanting to study. The other thing is to volunteer tutoring GCSE students. Firstly, volunteering just looks great regardless, and if you're tutoring GCSE content, you're giving yourself the opportunity to review that content for yourself also, and so you're benefiting your own academic journey. Also, if you have some work experience later on, you can charge for tutoring, and that's a really, really good side hustle, especially if you're at university, because you can do it online and it pays really well. Sincerely, someone with regrets. Often people will take 4 A-levels up to this point, and then after exams they will drop their 4th subject. The most common one is further maths because people want to at least get a qualification out of it. But even if your school don't run these as official exams like my school didn't, you will still have to sit a set of mocks. If you're an early application student, these exams will almost entirely dictate your predicted grade and therefore your university application. If you apply for a course that requires a certain set of A-levels and you do not match or exceed that, you simply will not get an offer. It's also worth noting that if you are ill over your A-level exams, the exam boards can use your mocks as a factor in determining your final grade. Often, especially in year 12, people will slack off and then they'll turn around to their teachers and they'll beg for them to predict a higher grade than they deserve because your teachers obviously want you to get an offer for the place that you want. But if it comes down to your final grade, the exam board is going to take the grade that you got in your mock at face value. Essentially what I'm saying is don't be lazy. When you took your GCSEs, of course you did mocks in year 10, but those have no real bearing. This is not the same situation. If you are not performing consistently throughout year 12 and making sure you do well on those year 12 mocks and your December year 13 mocks, with the stepping stone mentality in mind, you are not setting yourself up properly for year 13. You're giving yourself no room for error. Teachers often recommend 1 hour of independent study for every hour of class time that you have. So say you have a 5-period day and 3 of those periods are classes, then if you turn up an hour early for school, study, and then study during both of your frees, you should in theory not have to do anything else for the majority of the year. That being said though, I don't necessarily think that working by yourself every single free throughout the whole of sixth form is the best way to do it. My father always says, work hard, play hard, and so when you're in class, your only focus should be learning. You shouldn't be having a natter or on your phone. But when you're in sixth form, you gain a lot of independence outside of the classroom. So if you're on a free and someone says, do you want to get coffee? Go and get the coffee. If you have to skip the morning study session because you went out hard last night, so be it. Say in physics A level, you need 75% for an A star. In the final exam, the difference between getting 75 and 100% in everything except your ego is nothing. And so you should be sensible and recognise that you can, in fact, work hard, play hard if you balance it right. A lot of sixth form advice will say things like you need to make sure that you eat properly and sleep properly and exercise, and that is the best advice. And it's important because you need to be able to sustain yourself so that you can work consistently throughout both years. This is what my mother used to say. Every hour that you study, you're going to get a little bit smarter. But obviously, if you study for 24 hours a day, every day, you will die. And that's not very productive. So if we look at a graph of number of hours studied per day against intelligence, you're going to see an increase, a peak, and then a decrease. And you need to find your peak. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be a number like 18 hours a day. Especially if you're someone who's a really high achiever, it might make you feel a bit anxious to not study. But when I look back fondly on my sixth form experience, I do not think of the times I pulled an all-nighter to do my EPQ or the times I cried about a test, which was every day, to be honest. I'm looking at like spontaneous picnics during my freeze or going sledging or sixth form nights out. And the fact that you want to succeed shouldn't take away from the fact that you are young and very much alive for the sake of 4 hours a week. Stationery wise, for any STEM subjects, I would definitely recommend investing in the Casio FX CG50, famously known as Big Calculator. They are quite expensive, but most people can't use them at university, and so they tend to resell them on platforms like eBay. Some people like to use an iPad at sixth form. Personally, I'm too poor for that, so I went for the squared paper Uniball gel pen and folder arrangement, which did me just fine. Personally, I think that if you have a bit of money going spare, an investment into a laptop and using paper is much better than going for a tablet. Especially looking forward, if at university you want to do a STEM subject, you're going to have some coding modules and a tablet isn't going to be able to handle that. Importantly, my recommendation is that you get a planner. Notion has rightfully become really popular as a digital way of organising your life, but for me, I love a paper planner. I use a bullet journal like this one, and then I rule it just so I can customise it how I like. Obviously, you can buy ones that are pre-organised. I think some people argue that it's one more thing to carry around, but for me, when you're in that workflow, the process of having to open up your phone and tick something off digitally is just less than ideal. A paper planner for me perfectly separates my productive space, meaning that I can study without any digital distractions. Also, it just looks better. Like, look at this and tell me it's not screaming productivity. To be honest though, even if you just use the calendar app on your laptop, as long as you're using something, because you're going to have a lot more work to independently keep track of, and unlike a GCSE, you can't forget about a subject because that subject will form a third of your whole study. Before you start sixth form, you need to make sure that you have a clear, singular space where you're going to keep track of everything, including the work that you get given, every test you need to sit, every study period. The thing that I think is most important to remember is, why are you here? At the end of the day, you chose to take A-levels, and they're not meant to be easy because they're used to distinguish between the most academically proficient people of your age. A quote that I always chant to myself while I'm running is that you choose your pain. You can either face the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. I achieved 5 A-stars at A-level, and I had to wake up at 4 a.m. I studied on Christmas and on birthdays and when I was ill. And was that easy? No. But it meant that when I had to face my final exams, they were, for the most part, pretty easy. Strong sideways glance to AQA, physics paper 3A, no amount of revision could have prepared me for that. The potential harsh truth is that when you come out of your A-levels, you will be 18 and there will be no one there to guide you. Now, of course, I will hope that you're surrounded by people that would love and support you, but there is a situation where you come out, you're an adult, you might have to move out, you've pissed about for 2 years and you have no qualifications. Now what? Things are of course going to get tough, and you need to remember why you started and where you're going. Get a post-it note, write your purpose down, stick it on your desk, on your mirror, on the back of your phone, by the toilet, wherever it is, to remind yourself that you need to keep pushing. If you're going to take anything away from this video in the most motivational, real way possible, the only way that you're going to succeed at sixth form is by showing up. There's that guy who's like, 85 to 90% of life is just showing up.
85 to 90% of life is just showing up. If you show up, there's a chance something could happen. Show up. There's something bad about to happen to me.
Remember that.